Hey everyone, this is Robin.
And this is Christof.
And we are here to introduce another special edition story for you today. This one is called The Dramatist. This is going to be the last in our series of these special edition stories. But interestingly enough, this one was, I believe, the first one that we ever actually produced. So this one holds a real special place in my heart. It's a detective story inspired by the old Hollywood film noir movies, which when I first heard about the idea for the script of this one way back when we made it in, I think, 2011, I was so excited because, and I don't even know if Christof knows this, those old LA detective stories are some of my favorite movies, and maybe not the really old ones, but like I particularly love sort of the neo-noir ones, stuff like Chinatown. LA Confidential was one of my favorite movies when I was in high school. And I was also a big fan of the video game LA Noire, which I think was probably released almost the exact same time when we were making this. So I was so excited about making this. And it's really interesting listening to this because like I have a little bit of mixed feelings because I love that genre so much and I love this episode, but I don't feel like we quite 100% executed on the premise as much as I would have liked to. I think we got like the feel I was looking for, probably like 60 to 70% there. But it's still such a fun episode.
Well, I got to tell you, I think this is probably my favorite opening of almost any Leviathan episode we've ever done. It has this great kind of surprise twist in the first couple minutes that I love both the premise and how we executed it. And I want to give full credit. This episode was written by Nobi Nakanishi, who, as many of you know, is the director of the Leviathan Chronicles episodes. And I love that element of it. This great kind of first little twist that you get that pulls you right into the character.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll hear we really try to create this sort of like old Hollywood 1930s, 1940s atmosphere with all the music and the performances in this one. There's a lot of sort of like fun film noir-y, like saxophone and jazz music. In particular, you'll hear in part one, which you're going to be listening to today, there's this great fight scene in an alleyway where the music is maybe not so evocative of specifically film noir, but a sort of like old school comic book feel, almost like the old like Adam West Batman or old like superhero radio drama serials.
Totally. That's what I was thinking.
And it just makes for a really fun sort of departure from our usual style.
Yeah, as you were touching on before, like it feels that the fight kind of had this great give and take, and there was a little bit more space. It's more of a, I'm going to punch you now, kapow! Like, and there was a little, music thing with it. That was kind of fun. And I think a lot of the fight scenes that we do in more recent Leviathan episodes, and certainly in Venios and stuff like that, it's cut much tighter. There's a quicker clip to it, and it's also a little bit more visceral, and they're a little bit meaner in their spirit. And here it feels more reflective of the time that that the fights would have taken place in, which is fun. I also have to say, it's nice to have the stakes be based around a person, not a fate of the world or something more massive. This is really a character vignette when it gets down to it, and it's kind of fun to play at that smaller scale.
Yeah, it's something that we haven't often done. Like a lot of our stories are sort of these big sort of like epics with multiple plots threaded together, and this is, like Christof just said, focusing on one character. It takes place over a couple days with one guy in Hollywood in the 1940s. And I love the idea of tying that sort of story in with our Leviathan lore.
And I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. This was, as Robin said, this is one of the first special editions we did. And, I think we were learning what we wanted the length and style to be like. And I'm really happy. I think this is something that I'm kind of proud that we did, because it was a self-contained story, but it was also on a smaller scale, and just how we got to that period piece feel, I thought went really well. So I'm really excited to share this all with you guys.
So here it is, The Dramatist, Part 1.
Enjoy.
The Dramatist. A Leviathan Chronicles story. Part 1.
If only I could have the chance to tell her. If I could just have a second chance.
There's nowhere to go now. If you only believed that there was the possibility to achieve something greater than your pathetic life, no one would have to have been hurt.
There seemed to be no hint of regret as the hitman took aim, despite the years of acquaintance between them. The glimmer of the gun under the light of the alleyway struck Hennessy in the eyes, making him close them. For the first time, the blackness that he saw meant something. He understood.
Wait, just one thing. Will you listen to me? Hear my side.
The hitman grimaced.
It won't change a thing. It can't.
I'm not trying to change anything. I just want someone to know the truth.
Why me?
Who else? You do what you need to do, but in return, you will know the honest truth.
The hitman lowered his gun for a moment, seeking the truth in his eyes.
Go ahead. What is it I need to know?
It was Crenshaw from the start. When you hear on the newswire tomorrow, when you realize how much bigger this is than all of us, you will know. It was Crenshaw all along. And when they come for you, it will be your job to tell your executioner that it was Crenshaw as well.
Sorry, Hennessy. I can't hear you.
And like the man he had been sent to kill, Hennessy was dead. Just another part of the cycle. Just another piece of the puzzle. Now gone. And this has been another night of the Detective Saga. See you next week to find out what happens next.
And we're off the air. Fantastic job, everyone.
And just like that, Clive Barrington's part was done as Detective Cyrus Hennessy. As the lights went up on the tiny Los Angeles studio and the actors left their holding area, the handsome actor turned to his assassin and shook his hand. The other man mouthed a congratulatory remark and nodded his admiration and understanding as the others started to gather around.
Clive, I'm so upset that you'll no longer be with us.
Most definitely.
It's been a wonderful opportunity, but my time is up. I will miss being in your presence, of course.
Suddenly the director entered, a diminutive man with a booming voice. He strode up to Clive and took his hand, shaking it so much that he could feel his whole body vibrate.
Clive, my boy, that was quite a death indeed. You were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's no Julius Caesar, I know, but I hope the material...
The material was exciting as always. And to all of you, I just wanted to say I will miss being here with you every week. I'm not one for speeches, but to be with such talented actors on a regular basis has been a real pleasure. In a medium that reaches across the country instantaneously. I'm just...
Sorry to interrupt you, old boy, but I'm not one for speeches either. Everyone drink. To Clive!
To Clive!
Los Angeles, Hollywood Hills, 1930. Later that evening, Clive walked into a nameless speakeasy, located in an alley just off Hollywood Boulevard within an unmarked building. The destination for people of the night, like actors seeking a modicum of anonymity, or alcoholics with little more than the remainder of their paycheck and an undeniable desire to drink. This was the place for men who wanted to get away from their wives, yet wanted to avoid their mistresses, and toast to the massive portrait of a semi-nude ingenue, an ideal that did not exist, not even in Hollywood. This was where the outside world ceased to be, and only their unfulfilled soul reminded them that they were still on Earth.
Right, Paddy.
Aye, aye, Mr. Barrington.
Clive Barrington was what one would call almost famous around town, both as an accomplished stage actor and budding motion picture actor. In little more than 20 years, the movie industry in Hollywood had taken huge leaps in technology. Talkies had just gone mainstream a few months earlier, and now every major studio was scrambling to release films with sound. Many silent film stars were becoming casualties of the transition, and people with theatrical and vocal talent, like Clive, were quickly being snapped up as potential stars.
Top of the morning.
To the closing curtain, Paddy.
Another? Ah, why do I bother asking? Of course you will.
But Clive didn't hear his favourite bartender at all. Even without looking, he could feel the curious stare from the man who sat at the other end of the bar.
Who's our friend, Paddy?
Damned if I know. Is he bothering you?
Not a reporter.
Never seen him before. He doesn't look that much like Hedda Hopper, does he?
I believe Miss Hedda may have a bigger set of stones.
The two men turned to the stranger, who had no problem showing that he was listening as well as watching.
Enjoying the show?
Not a reporter, film writer. And you're Clive Barrington, aren't you?
Look, buddy, there isn't much this bar pretends to uphold, but privacy and a little courtesy was...
Yeah, I was here well before him, sir. I didn't come here to eavesdrop. And I think you two started talking about me first.
Okay, now...
It's all right. It's fine, Paddy. Man is right. He deserves to enjoy his drink. No harm.
If you say so, sir.
The stocky bartender returned to his duties, attending to an odd-looking couple who in this instance didn't quite make clear who was the gentleman and who was the lady.
Thanks, Mr. Barrington. But, hey, say, since you are here, can I ask you a question?
Clive looked at him with some disdain and did his best to make the man take notice of it, but ultimately couldn't stop him from sauntering over drunkenly and sitting right next to him.
See, I've been working on a story for this talkie I got hired for. A real doozy of a story, in my opinion. Well, I wanted to know from someone who has all the makings of a star if it's just a bit too far-fetched.
Clive took another sip and said nothing.
Mr. Barrington, you're an actor. And guess what? This story is about an actor. Talented guy. One of those natural talents. Like he's been doing it for years. Since the day he was born. But you see, he's no ordinary actor. This gent, he's actually been alive for... Well, he's been alive for hundreds of years. Never aged. Immortal. Always appears the same throughout time. He shows up, emerges for short periods in history as a burst of talent on the scene, but as soon as he hits the big time, the peak of stardom, he disappears. He has to disappear, see? Because fame, true fame, is his only enemy.
Clive looked at the man, and back at his drink. Bemused, he shook his head.
Well, what do you think so far?
Clive noticed that Patrick had been listening the whole time, and gestured to him.
What do you think, Paddy? Conceivable?
Paddy's thumb emerged from his large left hand and he pointed it downwards.
Sorry, my friend. Sounds a bit far-fetched to me.
The writer looked at him for a long time. Then finally...
Well, that's too bad. Back to the old drawing board for me, I suppose. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. You may see my name yet on the big screen, even if it's not a story about eternal life.
And with that, the man picked up his coat and fedora and swiftly exited from the bar.
Writers, next thing you know, Martians will be falling from the sky like cats and dogs.
Indeed. Well, Paddy, I should get going myself. I just wanted to drop in and pay my respects.
Wait a sec, you're making it sound like a funeral.
Am I? I didn't even notice. But the barman always knows best. Until next time, Patrick.
Clive then took the man's hand firmly and shook it with both his hands to say goodbye, something he had never done before. Clive walked outside, knowing full well what to expect. He looked around, keeping an eye out for the so-called writer. While searching for a car, a group of men, anything, he heard a faint whistle from the alleyway. Clive turned to see the man, took a deep breath, and walked towards him.
Pretty subtle in there.
You see, in Hollywood, you can say whatever you want, and people will just smile at you, nod, and hope they get tickets to the premiere. That's what I love about this town.
What is your name?
Martin Vrog.
And what is it you want?
It's not me. It's we. We want something from you.
Of course.
There's a war coming, and we want to know which side you would choose.
Why does it matter?
Because of what you do.
What I do? I'm an actor.
What you can do, Clive.
I don't recall ever ending up on a first-name basis.
Don't make this any more difficult. Playtime is over, Clive. This gypsy life you lead, stage to stage, country to country, it's just not going to be possible anymore. The surface technology is catching up. Soon enough, you'll be in one successful, timeless motion picture. Your face, your voice, immortalized for the world, and that will be the end of your career, because there will be a permanent record of you that you cannot escape. That will make it impossible for you to disappear. I'm sure you've thought of this.
Perhaps I have.
So the choice you have now, because you cannot escape the responsibilities of being immortal, are to return to Leviathan, or to do, well, quite frankly, as I am not a man of art, to do what I think you do best.
Which is?
Deception, infiltration, manipulation, things that have a real purpose.
Clive's blood began to boil. Statements like this identified the man as a newly turned immortal, someone who had not been around long enough to appreciate the things he had seen, the lives he had led, the beauty that the human race could actually produce. No, This man only saw the task at hand.
And what if I say no?
I'm not allowed to bring back that answer.
Of course not.
Clive turned and began to walk away.
If you would like, I can drive you back to your house, perhaps speak with you along the way.
No, thanks.
Or perhaps I can just meet you there.
You know where I live?
Of course I do. And I know who you live with. If you want, we can include her in the conversation. I'm sure she'd be very interested. And if conversation won't work, I have other methods of persuasion that I'd be happy to try.
I see.
I'm prepared to make anything happen for the greater good.
Clive walked back to Vrog, this time with a cold determination.
I'm sorry. This is where we will have to part ways.
I can't let that happen.
I know.
Without warning, Vrog swung at Clive with his right fist. Clive took the man's hand and twisted it back, recalling for the first time in a long while what he'd been shown in his first stage combat lesson. Not strength, not anger, but balance. He pulled the man upward by the arm and kicked his legs out from under him. Vrog, however, was fast enough to grab Clive's neck as he went down. Clive launched an elbow back, slamming it into Vrog's face. Then silence. Clive pushed himself off the ground, quickly regaining his balance, and saw 3 shadowy figures running towards him. He instantly leapt into action, taking the men on directly. He kicked the first in the stomach, knocking him down with a single blow. As the second man neared, Clive clotheslined him straight down onto the first man's prone body. The third attacker came up from behind and punched Clive in the side. Clive could feel a sharp pain blow through his body, but quickly turned around and caught the man's next punch with his own fist. The sensation of grinding knuckles made both men wince, but Clive's determination helped him recover faster, and he thrust his other fist into the man's throat. Suddenly, the sound of a car ignition filled the air, and Clive turned into the blinding headlights of a Buick sedan. He quickly dashed towards his own car, judging the distance of the Buick as it barreled down upon him by the sound. He leapt into his Auburn convertible and threw the car into neutral just in time to take the impact of the Buick. The Auburn jolted forward, and Clive quickly took control of the wheel, turning on the ignition and throwing the stick into low gear. As he drove, he spied in the rearview mirror to see a man run out of the car and help the downed men. Immediately, his mind was on what he had to do next.
I've got to get to Veronica. Where is she tonight? What time is it? Almost 9 p.m. She could be at home already, but then again, she could be at the studio. That new picture, what was it called? The Devil's something. Great. Always had a mind for dialogue, but never for titles. So home or studio? Which one? The studio is closer. I'll check there first. If she's not there, then she'll be home. And if Rog was telling the truth, they're probably already there. If I can somehow catch her at the studio. Please be there, Veronica. Please.
Clive turned the car onto La Brea Avenue in the direction of United Artists Studios, driving through the winding roads as fast as he could. He noticed how empty the streets were as he passed the cavalcade of mission-style homes, how much this city was so residential and so sleepy, despite the distinct presence of what he liked to call dream factories. Clive had indeed seen and experienced several hundred years' worth of theatre evolve, but nothing compared to how fast film had quickly captured the attention of the audience. Yet he had trepidations when it came to making motion pictures. As a performer, the experience was too disjointed, too fleeting. Clive shook his head as his mind wandered. Until minutes earlier, that was the extent of the choices he faced, but none of that mattered now. Fate clearly had something else in store for him.
Here we go.
As Clive pulled up to the security gate, he knew something was amiss. The gate was never left open, but tonight it was, and the guard was nowhere to be seen.
Hello? Hello, anyone there?
Clive stood up and leaned through his window to peek into the booth. There was nobody there. He sat back, slowly drove onto the lot and parked his car, facing it out from the wall in case he would need a quick getaway. He didn't worry about security, as many of the guards knew who he was due to his association to Veronica. But he did worry about the lack of it. This was out of the ordinary, but then again, it was entirely in line with how things were turning out tonight.
Okay, Clive, now where do we go? How do I find the right soundstage without drawing any attention? Better yet, how am I going to get Veronica out of here?
Clive began to walk through the maze of sound stages, essentially giant and unremarkable warehouses that in the dark were hardly recognizable. Hanging lamps seemed to absorb light rather than give it off, and unreadable signs made it impossible to figure out where to begin. until
Oh, what the?
Clive looked down to see a guard unconscious on the ground.
Hey, wake up! What happened here? Hey! This is the guard who's usually at the gate. What is he doing all the way back here? He's alive, but he's definitely out cold. Wait, his keys. If I take his keys, I'll be able to get into the stages. Damn it. Seems like someone had the same idea. I need to move faster.
But what Clive saw next threw him off guard. Up ahead, he could see several unconscious people all down the path. Guards, day players, assistants. Paper was strewn across the ground or whipped into the air by the night breeze. Now it began to make sense. He had heard of this before.
Leviathan technology. Only they would be capable of something like this.
Clive began to run along the path, past the cluster of bodies. Despite how things looked, they would all be okay. Clive hadn't witnessed this in person before, but he had heard from friends still connected to Leviathan that they had developed a way to knock people unconscious with a controlled burst of electromagnetic energy. Last he heard, it was called a plasma loop.
Where are you, Veronica? I have to keep an eye out for any movement. They've clearly been here, and if they are still here, I have a shot at saving her.
Clive slowly turned the knob and could feel the lock unlatch. He slowly entered the first soundstage to discover a scene that seemed to have been frozen in time. Lights were at full power. The director was sitting in his chair with his head down. The camera crew were slumped over their equipment. The actors in the scene, dressed as gangsters, still holding their prop guns, leaned against the set or sat in their places, heads down, like wind-up toys that ran out of momentum.
Not gangsters. She wasn't in a gangster film, was she? I don't think so.
Clive rushed out of the building and went to the next one, opening the stage door and entering without any problem. It was clear that whoever was here, they had gone through exactly what he was doing now. This time Clive entered to find a boxing ring set up in the middle of the stage. This could not be the right place. Veronica never mentioned boxing, but as he ran to the exit, something caught his eye. A director's chair that had one name he actually was curious about in Hollywood, Chaplin. As he left, he wondered just for an instant what this century's dramatic genius was about to create.
I'm wasting time. I can't go to every single set. I need to figure this out, and fast.
Clive exited onto the path to see two final buildings standing before him. Whichever one he chose now would give him the answer he needed. He approached the one to his left and turned the doorknob to find...
It's locked. Could this be it?
Without taking a second thought, Clive took a step back and quickly kicked in the door, bracing himself as he entered in case anyone was waiting for him. Instead, he saw something that nearly took his breath away. It was as though he had just walked into a life-size snow globe. From the rafters, fake snow slowly drifted down, reminding Clive of the night he met Veronica. Judging by how the scene was undisturbed, Clive understood that he hadn't been far behind after all. It could only have been minutes ago when the pulse knocked everyone out. He scanned the stage and began to look for her.
This is it. I know it has to be. Veronica, where are you?
Clive walked past the unconscious cast and crew and knew that he was in the right place. The Devil's Angel was clearly written on the prop box.
The Devil's Angel, how obvious.
As he looked around, Clive noticed one spot on the ground where the fake snow hadn't collected. When he looked up, shielding his eyes from the bright spotlights, it was then that he saw her silhouette. It was her. Veronica hovered in the air, gently swaying in her angel costume, held up high with a web of cables and rope.
Veronica! Damn.
Clive held his breath and looked around. He instinctively reached for his favorite Walker Colt pistol before catching himself.
That was almost a century ago, old chap.
Being unarmed made Clive rush past his instincts. As best as Clive could tell, he was still alone. And so he quickly turned his attention to look for a way to guide Veronica to the ground safely, and located the pulley system at the side of the soundstage. The crew member manning the station was out cold on the ground. Clive dragged him out of the way to get a good footing and began to figure out which levers to pull.
Okay, darling, just a few moments and I'll have you down. We'll have to go and then I suppose I'll have a lot of explaining to do. Okay, now which one?
In his haste, Clive didn't sense the man coming up from behind as he surveyed the levers, and before he could react...
You have been listening to The Dramatist, a Leviathan Chronicles story. This episode was made possible by the generous support of our listeners. To listen ad-free and get exclusive bonus content and behind-the-scenes footage, become a subscriber at patreon.com/Leviathan Chronicles. The Dramatist was written by Nobi Nakanishi and Christof Laputka. Directed by Nobi Nakanishi. Produced by Robin Shaw. Executive produced by Amish Jani. Original music by Luke Allen. Sound design and editing by Luke Allen and Robin Shaw. Starring Todd Butera as Clive Barrington, Kelly King as Martin Vrog, David Ault as Paddy, and Samantha Parker as the narrator. For a full cast list and to learn more about our other audio productions, go to leviathanaudioproductions.com or follow us on social media. Thank you for supporting Leviathan Audio, and thank you for listening. Leviathan Audio Production.